Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. This is the TAFA, MA, and FA for March 21st, 2022. And I do want to say that it is surprising that we've gone up about 1,000 points all of a sudden, but I'm actually looking at the monthly graph, and our current pump is basically this right here at the end. Not all that impressive if you really look at what's going on. There was an earlier one that was here that was about the same. And most of that has actually retraced, but not all of it. So we did go another step up, and we are a little bit higher than we have been for about 2 weeks. So I guess that's kind of exciting. It looks like we are taking kind of a step ladder up. But on the fundamental analysis front, Russia has actually threatened to actually end all diplomatic relationships with the United States because Biden called him a war criminal over the weekend, and Putin does not like being called bad names. So that's actually very, very uncool. A lot of outlets have reported this. This one is from Daily Mail, and Biden called Putin a murderous dictator after some of the bombings over the weekend, especially on the Mariupol hospital. So Moscow warned that relations in the U.S. are on the verge of breach. Now, I'm not really sure if the United States is going to back off or they're going to keep pushing. We don't really know. The Kremlin did actually summon the U.S. ambassador and said, like, basically negotiations or basically relationships are at a breaking point. And signs relations between Washington and Moscow are worsening. Obviously, that was going to happen anyways because we're helping Ukraine with a war. And Biden is heading to Brussels, which is the capital of NATO, for a special NATO meeting. So Moscow is trying to put the pressure on Washington. Moscow has a lot of pressure on itself. A lot of countries, especially the Western allies, which it sells oil to, are completely embargoing it, and they're talking about a full oil embargo on Russia itself. So Russia is facing a lot of pressure from a lot of directions. But we really don't want the diplomatic situation to deteriorate anymore because that raises the chance of a big global conflict. So we really, really, really don't want that to actually happen. And it's not in Moscow's favor to do that either because Moscow needs to try to salvage any kind of relationship it has with major trading partners. So the summoning of the U.S. ambassador was a sign relations between Washington and Moscow worsening as the Kremlin continues its invasion of Ukraine. Obviously, Vladimir Putin is refusing to back down on Ukraine, and the U.S. leads Western allies in tightening the economic noose around Russia in response. This was probably going to happen anyways, regardless of what Biden called Putin, but now it's just getting worse and worse. So maybe, I don't really know how Biden's going to address Brussels. I don't really know if the relationships are going to completely break down, and I'm not really sure what Russia plans to do, but that's definitely not a good sign because this could lead Russia to embargoing Europe on natural gas, which Europe desperately needs. And once again, if Europe basically cuts off Russia's oil exports, oil will definitely go up in price. So that's always something that's threatening the market. But right now, it is being overridden by the sudden bullish sentiment that we actually look at the market. But if we look at the monthly graph, the bit at the end is really not all that impressive. If you look at the 5-day graph, it's a lot more impressive. This is very much in parallel with what we have, the rise in price that we actually had here on the 18th of March, so roughly about 5 days ago. Now, as you can see, the 18th of March, we actually did rise to about 42,000, which is slightly less than what we have here, but we did actually retrace most of those losses. So it is a re-rise from the 18th. We're hitting against the $43,000 barrier, and I don't really know if we're going to be able to surpass that. If we don't, my guess is that we'll see this pattern where we stay here for a couple of days and then dip around to 40,000 again. And once we dip around to 40,000, I actually like dip around to 41,000. I think we'll hold 41,000 until we do this again in a few days, and maybe we'll get to 43,000 then. So it's a lot of ups and downs. You can see a lot of big green candles here. But if you actually look on the 1 monthly, the volume is still not all that high compared to some of these other pumps. So I don't think this one will actually last. but it is a good time to actually get some profits. I do expect it to drop down to 41,000, so there might be a little bit of money to actually be made there. I think a couple of the shorts got squeezed, probably not a lot of them. The thing is, if we can like step up, get these steps up, and we can get above 45,000 eventually, that could actually be something big. But right now we're stuck under 43,000. So that's actually where we are right now. This kind of like the kind of long pattern is, yes, we are still coiling on a pattern that actually started on January 21st. And the pattern truly started at around February 4th. We were still coiling around the $41,000, $42,000 mark. However, the neckline is moving slightly higher each time, which is a very, very good sign. But I still think we got a couple of weeks or maybe like 1 or 2 months left to go before the neckline really, really curls above 45 and we can actually go on more of a bullish scenario. So right now, I am still following this slow yet somewhat steady pattern of higher bottoms and either like neutral tops, higher bottoms, and pretty much the same top. Maybe slightly downward, but not really. The rise in bottom prices is going to be greater than the decrease in top prices. So my guess is like eventually we're going to coil up, depending on what happens in Russia and the energy thing, and what happens with the energy market. I think the energy market is going to drive a lot of things. I think U.S.-Russian relations will scare a lot of people, but I do think crypto will actually fare better than conventional stocks right now. And conventional stocks aren't actually doing all that bad either, with the Dow being at $34,500. But I don't really see a great big economic recovery anytime, and therefore I don't really see crypto mooning in the next 2 months. Hopefully I'm wrong and this war actually resolves soon. We would all like that, but I just don't really see it. On the technical indicator, on the daily, it is obviously on a buy. In fact, it is on a buy all the way to the 50, but once again, the 50 is still lower than the 200, so the golden cross is not there. We still have several thousand to go, and it doesn't look like we're going to get past that barrier. However, we are almost above the 100 EMA and the 100 SMA, and that's another step towards that. The oscillators to me are normal. The stochastic is getting towards overbought, and the average directional index is not very strong. So if the stochastic ever gets above 80, I would actually look at taking some profits because it actually might be getting into that overbought territory, and I do believe we will dip down a little bit afterwards, and you can just buy when we go down to about 41,000 or even 40,000, because that's kind of where I actually see the pattern. So right now, even though the TA indicators on the 1 day say buy, I'm looking at more of a sell right now, but not a strong sell, because you probably won't make more than 2 or 3% by trying to swing trade. On the weekly, I am pretty neutral on it. The oscillators are actually neutral. The 10 EMA and the 10 SMA are both buys, but the 20 through the 50 are actually sells. So because I believe it's at kind of like a state where it's like almost overbought over the very short term, I wouldn't advocate buying. I am more in a sellish mode right now because I do believe it'll dip 1 or 2,000 points before going back up, and there is some opportunity there if you do actually wish to trade. On the monthly charts, the oscillators are all neutral, and we still haven't gotten above the 10. So the thing is, if we rise another 1,500 points, we can actually get above the EMA for the 10 and the SMA for the 10, and that could actually be a pretty important point as well. But like I said, right now I think we are at kind of like a small local maximum, and we could actually retrace 1 or 2,000 points. So even for the monthly, actually on the monthly, I'm still on a buy if you're going to hold on for a month or more, because I do believe there will be another pump like this, and it will be slightly higher than this one. So monthly, I'm on a buy, but both weekly and daily, I'm more on a sell right now. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.